broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg. Judy, perfect timing. All right. Glad I could be consumption. I am wearing a logo Sophia cap today. What do you think of the logo Sophia cap? See? So, sport. Vitamin C, B, and E will be complex and omega-3s. It never has any artificial colors or sweeteners involved. It's one of my drinks. Oh. Medicine. Phone coming out. How about that now? Yes, no, maybe. Sound cutting out. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let me get into system preferences. See what we got. Let's see. Let's check out this sound. Hello, Natasha. Okay, let's see. Output volume. We're not getting any output volume here. Input. Let's see. Yes, there's the mic. I got lots of volume here. Better, better. So far, so good. Better. All right. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. I could even go higher. How's that? Do you like that volume? You like that? How's that volume? I want to take you higher. Oh, it adjusts accordingly, apparently. Okay. Sound like you're short. Christopher Short. All right. Are we good? Are we good? Okay. We're good. All right. So what's happening out there? It's a Friday, Friday the 16th of August. And there's a lot of crazy shit still happening. Now the autopsy comes out and says Jeffrey Epstein is officially dead, broken bones in his neck. Okay. Now, while Jeffrey Epstein disappears, out of the rabbit hole pops Ghislaine Maxwell. Just like that. Have you guys seen the pictures of Ghislaine? Lady Ghislaine? Hanging out at Whataburger? Or not Whataburger, In-N-Out. In-N-Out, eh? Right? Isn't that cute? Isn't that funny? In-N-Out. Little Billy old In-N-Out, eh? Let me see if I have some pictures of Lady Ghislaine here. I think I do. No, it's Helter Skelter. Man, I got so many pictures on my freaking desktop right now. I do have all my China pictures rocking and ready to go. That much we have for sure. Absolutely. I have a crazy commercial that I'm going to play for you guys today. Another crazy commercial. Another German commercial. This one is going to be Mercedes-Benz. Yesterday we had the Volkswagen commercial where it was really just a lovely family situation. Dude in space, reaching for the apple, the tree of knowledge, fruit that is born from the tree of knowledge, a mother with her kid, and it was banned. It was banned. So there's another commercial. Maybe I'll skip it. It's a Mercedes commercial where it is the absolute exact opposite. So what I'm trying to do right now is I just want to try to find these pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell that I have put together. Maybe I'll just go to a website. We'll do this. No, that's not it. Yeah, that's the one for information liberation. Let me just go to a website. Ah, sometimes you just think you have it all together and you don't. There we go. So let's do this. The latest of Ghislaine Maxwell, in and out. Yeah, here we go. I'll be able to scroll through this so you guys can check this out. This is actually from the New York Post, which carries the most salacious content, I think, pretty much. The Post and the, was it the UK Mail? Pretty salacious content. There she is. Staring right at you. The old in and out. Doesn't it feel like we're being played a little bit here? Doesn't it feel like Ghislaine Maxwell is trolling the rest of us? Jeffrey Epstein's former gal pal, Ghislaine Maxwell, isn't holed up in a British manor or somewhere on the Massachusetts coast. The Post found the socialite hiding in plain sight. It's an interesting term, isn't it? In the least likely place imaginable, a fast food joint in Los Angeles. Maxwell, 57, the alleged madame to the multimillionaire pedophile, was scarfing down a burger, fries, and shake. Their shakes are quite good at In-N-Out, by the way. On Monday, while reading the Book of Honor, The Secret Lives and Deaths of CIA Operatives. How do they know that? How do they know that? Did somebody go up to her and ask her? Did she tell the photographer? Is this a photo op? Sitting alone with a pet pooch, she was surprised to have been found and told an onlooker, well, I guess this is the last time I'll be eating here. Maxwell, accused in court papers of providing sex slaves for Epstein and engaging in threesomes with the financier and underage girls, had not been photographed in public since 2016. The daughter of the late disgraced publishing tycoon, also high-level MI6 Mossad spy, Robert Maxwell, has not been charged with any crimes, but could find herself in the Fed's crosshairs following Epstein's apparent jailhouse suicide. Attorney General William Barr declared on Monday, any co-conspirators should not rest easy. This is the guy whose father hired Jeffrey Epstein, okay? I don't think William Barr is going to go rushing head first like a bull into this situation and try to get Ghislaine Maxwell and anybody else connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Pedo Island and Zorro Ranch. I just, it doesn't feel like a real good fit, considering that the Barr family has a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Was this one of the reasons why Barr was brought in as Attorney General? I never understood the Barr thing. I mean, this is a guy that was and I can use this word now, even though that Barry, what's her name from the New York Times, doesn't know the definition, toady, even though Barr was a toady for the Bush administration, the same administration and the same family that Donald Trump swatted into the Andromeda galaxy, were swatted all the way to Andromeda during the debates. You would think that perhaps Donald Trump would want somebody aligned with the Bush family about as far away from this process as possible. But obviously that's not the case. One could say keep your friends close, your enemies closer, whatever, right? I'd still like to know where the hell Ruth Bader Ginsburg is. Can we get a proof of life, a real proof of life? Can you roll her out in front of an entire photo op with the rest of the Supreme Court? Because Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead. I mean, let's call it how we see it. There's no proof of life. We get these these pictures of her, and supposedly she's in some kind of a public space, and the pictures are from another time. I don't buy it, I don't buy it. Just like I don't buy that William Barr is there to expedite what's going to happen with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and this entire clusterfuck that's occurred. So I wanted to just respond to a comment from somebody. I think it might have been Robin over on the 15 minutes side. I called the girls that Epstein had in his stable underage prostitutes. And Robin brought up a good point that I agree with and I disagree with. And I just want to clarify why I agree and disagree. Robin says that they were trafficked minors. And I agree with that. They were trafficked minors. There is clearly a definition that is fairly clear and plainly legal that they were minors, trafficked minors, okay? And then if they're going to places like, California to service people, that's a violation of the Mann Act, which is basically ferrying underage women across state lines for the sole intent of sexual purposes, right? Called the Mann Act. That said, these were 14, 15, 16-year-old girls making significant amounts of money, okay? And some of them, I think, were quite content with their situation with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, I am not saying that I agree with it. I am not saying that I am co-signing on that arrangement. I am not. But I just want you to wrap your head around the fact that these young girls were making anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 per client, which is a lot better than working at Starbucks for $8 an hour, according to them. Not necessarily according to me, but according to them. Not only were they getting paid, and in many cases were willful participants, in other cases, they were actually going out and recruiting for Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein. They were recruiting. They were going after other girls. Now, were there mind control pieces involved? More than likely. There's a certain mindset that a pimp, and let's be clear about this, Jeffrey Epstein was a pimp. There's a certain mindset and a certain psychological grip and hold that an individual can have over somebody who is young and vulnerable. And from what I've read, they have employed these tactics with some of these women. Not all of them, but some of them were traumatized. Some of them were terrified. Some of them were into it. Some were a combination of the two. I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all model here. Okay, so when I say they were underage prostitutes, they were underage prostitutes. They were getting paid for what they did. Unlike other prostitutes who don't always get paid for what they do. Like a strict definition of a hooker or a streetwalker is they don't get paid. I don't know how many people understand this. They don't get paid. They basically work for their pimps. And pimps don't give them any money. What they give them is clothes, jewelry, but they cannot foster their independence. Because if they did, they would be basically disabling their model, and they'd have to go out and find new women all the time, because at some point women get sick of it, or maybe they find God or something. I'm out of here. But if they have no money, if they have no car, if they have no independence, then they're completely solely dependent upon their pimp. Now, these girls were, again, supposedly different in that they were actually making money, right? Theoretically, they were making money, which means that they were not having the same, but Jeffrey Epstein's a pimp. He's a high-level pimp, and Ghislaine Maxwell is a high-level madam. And were there incidents of traumatization? You bet. You bet. Coercion, you bet. But they were also getting something out of this deal. And I'm not here to blame 14 or 15, 16-year-old girl. But if you've been around a 14, 15, 16-year-old girl, and a lot of you have, or even a 14, 15, 16-year-old boy, good luck telling them what to do, because they've got a mindset that's all their own. And by the way, pretty good chance and possibility that the girls that we're talking about, by and large, are millennials. Pluto and Scorpio. Intense connection to money, sex, and power. And again, I'm not blaming it. I'm just making an astrological kind of connection here. Okay. Now, do they deserve our sympathy? I think the ones that have tried to break free, the ones that are coming forward, the ones who are clearly sharing what happened, the level of trauma and abuse, I would say 100% yes. They deserve our sympathy. They deserve our support, and anything that we could do to help them get their lives back on track, I think would be a really good thing to do, solid and supportive thing to do. Okay. If they're coming for help and they are able to share and show what they went through and how it was nearly impossible for them to break free from the grip of Jeffrey Epstein and Lady Ghislaine, of course. And there are others, just this is like life, right? I mean, not everybody is the same. You'll have some people who, given a certain situation, they'll be happy to do certain things. I mean, look at like, what is it? The Milgram experiment. In the Milgram experiment, they've basically faked people who were getting shocked by electroshock therapy. It was a total fake. And then they had people in this experiment and they were being coerced by their handlers to continue to up the voltage on this experiment, even though the person was in a great amount of pain. Theoretically, they weren't. They were just acting. And the people did it. There are some people that didn't do it, though. There were some people that said, no, I can't do this. And that was part of the experiment, too. So not everybody's going to act the same. Not everybody's going to react the same. You're going to get some people who will gladly sign off on the Babylon system. They'll gladly, ride the back of the beast or let the beast ride the back of them. And there are other people that won't. And I guarantee you that there was a mix inside of the Jeffrey Epstein coterie of young women. So, yes, I do believe that they were underage prostitutes. Yes, they were trafficked minors. And the two things can be both equally true. And again, my feeling is the ones that want real help, ones that want some form of psychological, emotional regeneration, care, whatever, they deserve our help. And if they're truly, I don't want to use the word repentant. That's too religious. But if they're really intentional about what they went through and how they want to recast their lives, I think anybody at that level deserves help and support. Okay. So I'm not here to throw any of these young women under the bus, but at the same time, I also have to recognize that there are some of those women, I guarantee you, they enjoyed what they did. They got into it, I'm sure. They're flying around all over the place, making big money. It's a power trip. And what about the parents? And I've talked about this before. The parents must have known what was going on, right? Or maybe they were, trying to pick off young girls who were in the midst of broken homes. Maybe they were profiling. And I think there is some of that involvement as well. Anyway, I don't want to be dismissive of Robin's comment, because I think it does have some merit. At the same time, I think that there is a part of that group of young women, they're into it. And they were underage prostitutes. And I think it's important for us to distinguish and have some level of discernment about the event. And again, I'm not trying to bail water for Jeffrey Epstein, right? I'm just, being kind of a lucid human. And this is how these things go. Not everybody is corruptible, even though they may have moments of corruptibility, and they may turn their back on it because they have some divine spark inside of them. They have, the God gene is still blinking, right? And there are other people who are corruptible, and they're okay with it. And they make choices, and they continue to make choices along that line. And eventually they wind up in Washington, D.C. Okay, let me scratch my ear and check in with you guys and see what you have to say about this. Maybe a little bit of controversial commentary on my part, but that's, I'm just trying to see this for as clearly as I can. Clearly as I can. I've witnessed girls going back to their pimps despite physical abuse or trauma, even if they have a safe place. There's a power dynamic. I agree. I agree. Some are brainwashed by their pimps. Let's see. Nope. And the money and high level socialized is intoxicating for them. I think we can. Here's what I think. I think we can agree. That we're dealing with a really powerful cocktail of trauma, psychological coercion, and high level reward. I think if you bring all those three things, right? Trauma, psychological coercion, and high level reward. This is what I think is the kind of the magnetizer of that experience in that event. And I think there are some young people or some people in general who will split off because they realize that it has great damage to their souls. And there are others who will continue to move down that path because that's just who they are. Right. But that's like we're skimming the surface of the Epstein material at that level, because there are levels beneath that are really, really creepy. Really creepy. Those were the honey trap girls. That gets back into like, the basic sort of Profumo affair stuff. If you guys know the Profumo affair, it happened during the 1960s, and it had to do with English parliamentarians and Christine Keeler, who was a prostitute, and it was all about extortion. This stuff goes on all the time. So those were the honey trap girls, and that's where they're able to extort politicians, business people, get all kinds of money out of them, right? But there were other things going on beneath that in the Epstein world that are utterly bizarre, incredibly dark, and really, really, bordering on hellfire stuff. And we're not even getting into like the AI and some of the, the eugenics-based material that they were running around and trying to institute, or they were also like into like creating like low-level sex slave robots and shit like that. I mean, the whole thing was weird. And apparently there's even ties between Jeffrey Epstein and Elon Musk, Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates, Jeffrey Epstein and even Stephen Hawking, for that matter. So the tentacles of Epstein's world reach out in a number of different directions. And what we're getting from sort of the mainstream press is the story of these young women, which are valid stories. But there's a lot more going on beneath the surface of that iceberg with Jeffrey Epstein. And we have to wonder now whether we'll ever really get to the bottom of it, especially with Bill Barr as the Attorney General. I have my doubts. Serious doubts. Okay, so why don't we transition here? Let's get into some of the China stuff, which I wanted to talk about on Sunday night, but kind of got roped into more of the Epstein material. And so the China stuff is really interesting. What I want to do is I want to show you some pictures that I've accrued here with China. Just this is some of the stuff on the streets in Hong Kong, and they're very, very compelling pictures in a lot of ways, and give you a sense as to what's going on there. So let me find my folder here with all my China related material. I have come prepared on this one. What do we have here? Oh, there's the Maxwell photo that I had. Interesting. It's almost like she's like two different people in this photo. Very odd. Very, very odd. I want to do this. I want to put these photos side by side one more time, because this is what really got me with this photo. It's like, this is the Ghislaine Maxwell that we've seen for years with this face. Like, this face has not changed for years. Think about all the Ghislaine Maxwell photos, and they're not many, by the way, that are on the internet. It's the same face. This face looks a little bit different. She looks like John Hurt here. Remember the actor, the late actor John Hurt? Kind of looks like him a little bit there. Clearly not happy. And then we got people over here probably taking pictures of her and selfieing up. That's LA, huh? Interesting. Anyway, very different photos. Maybe it's the glasses, angle. This is Ghislaine Maxwell that we've come to know, and this is the late John Hurt in drag. All right. That was the picture I was looking for. Let's get into some of these China photos. They're fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And it gives you, these are all very new. They're all new photos. So this is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. So who's paying for, what is this now? What kind of revolution is this? Is this the golden revolution? Is this the mustard yellow revolution? Because I think what's happening here is some of this is astroturfed, but some of this is also what's going on in Hong Kong. And I'm gonna make some astrological connections here that I think are very interesting. So I do believe that the United States and the CIA are involved in fomenting unrest in Hong Kong, because there's a significant amount now that's starting to come up around China, AI. We're going to get into this guy Voorhees, who just left Google. He's a whistleblower. Wait till you hear about this stuff. And it all has to do with China. We know that Eric Schmidt in Alphabet has been spending a huge amount of time in China, basically giving away all kinds of crazy secrets. If you haven't seen that interview, it's that guy Thomas Paine, and I think he and his wife, or whoever that person is, what they did is they took an interview that was done with Eric Schmidt's ex-girlfriend and the person interviewing her, and then they read back and forth. And Thomas Paine played the interviewer. She played the girlfriend. And the stuff that the girlfriend talks about is like wild, really wild. Like Eric Schmidt was being essentially blackmailed by the Chinese. And how they were blackmailing him is that everybody in his family got a poison that only the Chinese had the antidote for. But it's an antidote you have to take on a continuous basis, meaning you've got to take the antidote like every 30 days or something like that, or else you die. And one of his daughters actually died. It's because they stopped, they got 2 versions of the antidote, not 3 1 month. Because Eric Schmidt was thinking about doing something different or getting cold feet. Anyway, it's an interesting story that is part of this whole thing that's happening with China. Fascinating. Here we go. So this is just the beginning, right? Here's just the beginning. And we're going to see how much of the beginning it actually is. Let me do another image here. Again, these are very nice signs. And I want you to start to pay attention to the age of the protesters. Okay, get Chinese colonists out. Oh, and there we have the Union Jack. How about that? But look how young these people are. These are young protesters. These are Generation Z kids. These are Sagittarians. Look at them. They can't be more than 17, 18, 19 years old. So this is the ideological thrust that the Chinese are having to deal with. Is this group of young people, Pluto and Sagittarius. Most of them have Neptune in Aquarius and Uranus in Pisces. It's a very unusual generation. Some of the older Gen Zs have Neptune in Aquarius and Uranus in Aquarius. Those are the ones that were born between 1996 and roughly right around 1998, 1999. In 2000, Uranus begins to change and then Neptune begins to change. So these kids, I'm assuming based on their age, looks like they're around anywhere between 18 and 21. So they're probably, some of them, this kid right here looks like he might be about 15 or 16. Some of them look pretty young, but they're definitely Gen Z. They're definitely on the Gen Z side of things. Get Chinese colonists, get out. Chinese colonists, get out. It's a nice sign. You know, who pays for the signs? Who's organizing the groups? There's got to be organization here, right? There's some astroturfing going on, but clearly there's also some traction too, right? All right, let's get into another image. The numbers here, when you're going to see some pictures, the numbers are startling, absolutely startling. Against China extradition. It's another one of these issues, which is if you do something that is supposedly against the mainland Chinese government, you'll be extradited and pulled out of HK. Again, you know, this is kind of a elevated view, but these are very young people. I would say that the majority of these protesters range anywhere between 16 and about 22, 23 years old. Very interesting dynamic here. Let's do another one. So not only are they young, guess what? They're also religious. Okay? They are religious. These are Christians. And they're singing, hallelujah, hallelujah, praise the Lord, we shall overcome. These are Christians. Look, they're all wearing black. Oh, that's very interesting. This is fascinating stuff. This is going on in Hong Kong right now. They are having a Generation Z religious astroturfed ongoing revolution right now. These young people are religious. I don't know if you call them zealots or not, but they're fervent. They're fervent. And they've got more religiosity and more zeal than I would say most of America does. Like, I think these people are willing to die for whatever it is they are being motivated by. Of course, we know that that black is the color of Saturn, right? So they're donning the color of Saturn. Is this the Black Revolution now? Is that what it is? I was thinking maybe before it'd be golden. I think this might be the Black Revolution. It's very interesting. And again, Pluto and Sagittarius, when we think about Sagittarius, we think of religion. And Sagittarius is a religious sign, and it goes to religious extremes. Here we go, right? It's right here. And we have Jupiter and Sagittarius. So Jupiter is now moving through Generation Z's relationship to Pluto. They're waking up. They got indoctrinated with Saturn going through their sign from 2015 to 2018. That was the wake up call. And now Jupiter is coming in and it's expanding their potentiality and what they theoretically can do or would like to do. And this is what's happening. Look at that. I mean, this guy is a picture of absolute religious devotion. Whether you believe in religion or God or anything, this dude is motivated, right? And it factors in. It factors into their protest because, of course, communist China doesn't want anything to do with religion. You know, in the western part of China, they exterminate the Muslims. They will completely eradicate Falun Gong members. Christianity doesn't really have a place in China either. Look at this. Fascinating. Get some more images here. This is going to give you an idea of the number that we're dealing with. You got to check this out. Now here they're wearing white, which is interesting. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not insignificant. This is a big deal. This is a major deal. Look at those numbers. My God. It's insane. It's totally insane. And it's not stopping. It's not abating. All right, let's dive into some astrology with this. I got a few more images. I'll save them for after the astrology. All right, here we go. So the first chart that I want to work with here is the China handover chart. Like when the West theoretically handed Hong Kong over to China, that was on the 1st of July, 1997. I remember that day. Man, for some reason, I thought that day was just so heavy. I followed it quite extensively on the cable news networks. So here's the chart. So this is what was happening on the handover, which happens right at roughly 12 a.m. It was like, there it is, passing it off. July 1st, 1997, 12 a.m. So what we have here is the ascendant is Aries. So this is like the template. This is the baked-in template for how this situation is going to evolve. And what do we know about Aries? We know that Aries is an energy, or it's a representation of the force of will. It bypasses intellectual circuitry, and it is locked in to the expression of the will. There's no thinking with Aries. That doesn't mean that it's dumb or unintelligent. It is an amalgamation of thought, spirit, action, will. That's what happens with Aries. When Aries is at its best, it's all integrated, right? You get Keanu Reeves as Neo. That's all Aries, right? Doesn't have to think about anything. Saturn in the first house in Aries. Okay. That means that there would be a new authority that would be taking over Hong Kong. Isn't that what Saturn represents? Represents authority. It represents the force of hierarchies and organization and firmly planting that in the first house. It's like, this is it. There's a new boss in town, right? So that's Saturn. And they're undergoing a Saturn and Pluto crisis, which I'm going to talk about. And you'll see, you guys have been studying astrology with me now for a couple of years, and you know this chart. You can put this together. If not, we'll put it together for you. I mean, we're going to do it anyway. It's about money and land. Moon in Taurus, second house. Resources, money, land. This was a gift to China. It's a total gift to China. The English gave this over to the Chinese. The Chinese have had the hidden hand of the West guiding them for years. The government, the current government, which was founded by basically Mao Zedong, was created by ex-Bolsheviks coming over from Russia and essentially building the People's Republic of China. Hong Kong was given to Chiang Kai-shek by the West, Chiang Kai-shek being a high-ranking Freemason, by the way. About money, and we have a Moon-Jupiter conjunction. Now here is a very interesting, very, very interesting set of aspects. Here we have Uranus in the sign of Aquarius, right? Pluto had just been into Sagittarius by about 3 degrees, going in there in 1996. There's Neptune in Capricorn getting ready to go into Aquarius, and then there's Jupiter in Aquarius. And it's all in the 11th house. So in a lot of ways, this is indicative of what we're seeing taking place in China, that at some point they would have to deal with the radicalization, the revolutionary energies of the 11th house. Whoever did this, they should have had a better astrologer, just to be honest with you, because now this is what's happening. And just wait till next year. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if this thing doesn't get shut down. And it probably will. If it goes on for an extended period of time and Saturn begins to move into Aquarius, I don't know. I think they're going to have to eradicate almost an entire generation here. I think what's happening now in Hong Kong is a spark and a flame. Again, this could be completely astroturfed, and I think that there is some of that going on. But it is catching fire, and the seeds of the revolution are right here in the 11th house. Now let's get into what's going on with Saturn. Saturn is in square with natal Saturn, and so is Pluto. So what we have here is we have essentially a threat and pressure being applied to the organizing principle or the hierarchical forces that took over on this day, July 1st. And this is also, in some ways, a country that is in the process of the reclamation of its will to have self-determination on some level. Again, even if it's being astroturfed. Now, what's interesting, remember I was talking about Generation Z. Well, here we have Pluto in Sag, which is the kind of the marker for Gen Z. And if we move forward, a number of those kids are going to have Pluto at 10, 11, 12 degrees, 13, up to 20 degrees maybe. And their Plutos are all going to be in this 9th house, which is about freedom and religious observance in Sagittarius. And what's Jupiter doing? It's expanding. Jupiter is expanding generational Pluto from here to here of people that are living in Hong Kong, young people. Is there intercession and interference from abroad? No doubt. Jupiter would also be part of that discussion. What's also very interesting here is Mars. Mars is in Libra. This is, to me, Mars and Libra is the epitome of social justice. And I'm not saying that these people are SJWs in the classic sense. These are not AOC SJWs, which could make a good song, don't you think? I'm an SJW for AOC. Wouldn't play well here in Texas, I can tell you that right now. By the way, I have found the power of the cowboy hat. I was going to wear my cowboy hat today, but I wanted to give Steve and Chris a little love. So when we go out to get signatures or pass water out, we're past the signature phase. When we pass water out for people down at the farmers market, I wear my cowboy hat. And boy, people are very happy, ready, willing, and able to talk to me because I got that cowboy hat on. And I don't wear it because I'm trying to, soften them up. Number one, it's hot, it's sunny, it gives me a break, and I like wearing my white cowboy hat. I don't wear my black one. I wear my white one. But it's interesting. It's like a calling card. Anyway, let's get back to this. I would say that Mars and Libra, and I've talked about this quite a bit, is that Mars and Libra needs a cause. Right? If you got Mars and Libra in your chart, you got to find a cause. And for AOC, who has Mars and Libra, and I think what's her name? Doesn't Ilhan Omar? She found her cause. She is working her Mars. Right? She's living her chart, whether you like her or not. But she's found a cause. And apparently the cause found her. But this does not necessarily mean that it's communistic or social justice centric. What it does mean is it means that social justice in the sort of the typical kind of definition of that, right? That there is a wrong that needs to be righted. And the wrong that needs to be righted doesn't necessarily have, it's more agnostic. But because of how the game has been parsed out and divvied up, Mars and Libra currently tends to be on the side of the left or the progressives or the communistic, which is the rights, right? The rights for women, the underclass, well, not even the underclass anymore, people from other countries. It's identity politics. This is what Mars and Libra, if you want to apply it to that standard, how it's evolved. But here in this situation, there's a different application of Mars and Libra. And what's interesting is that with Mars here, it would be about the relationship to justice and balance. And at some point, this would come into play with this handover. And look what we have here. We've got a Neptune trine, and we've got a Uranus trine, 11th house, group orientation, group consciousness. I think this thing has legs. It has legs. Down here, we have the Sun and Mercury in Cancer. So we're dealing with Cancerian values. Very Cancerian values. And the United States Sun is right there on Mercury. So you know that the U.S. is involved in this. 4th house, very conservative. This is very, very conservative. I think they needed a better astrologer for this event, let me tell you. Pluto in the 8th house, the handover is about money. Of course, it's about money. Absolutely about money. Money, hidden resources. We got the trine to Venus, which is again about money. There's a youth culture that's participating in this. That's Venus and Leo, 5th house. This is young people. And then there's that sextile to Mars. The game is on here. Also, again, we have Neptune in the 12th house. That does have to do with 12th house related material, religious, spiritual orientation, powering and fueling this whole thing. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. There's also a Uranus square happening. This is significant, right? This is another part of this revolutionary energy. And this is going to be going on for a while because Uranus retrogrades to 2 and it goes all the way back up to, 7ward and beyond. So we got a Uranus square. That's also contributing. So we have a Saturn square, a Pluto Saturn square, and a Uranus square. Is there any reason why we can't see that there is actually something happening in Hong Kong, in spite of the fact that it's probably astroturf? Also, we have, it's not quite square with Mars. That would be an inconjunct. Absolutely. We have a Uranus-Mars inconjunct. And then, here we have the true node in Virgo in the 6th house, which I believe to be quite humble in a lot of ways. There's some humility here. And maybe this factors into it. People wanting some purpose and wanting some meaningful work. This is all really fascinating. We got the true node going through the 4th house of this handover, which means that the 10th house, which is being ruled by, at this point, Saturn, Pluto, all the kind of Chinese, mainland China kinds of iterations and symbology, 10th house, the world, right? Oligarchs, rulers, the establishment, it's all standing in opposition to what's going on right there in the root of this chart. Fascinating stuff, really fascinating. So I would tend to think that what's happening here is real. And I think it's going to be very difficult in some ways for China to continue to hold on. Will they commit troops to this? I have I have a response to that, or I have an answer for that. In order to get there, let's throw up the China and Hong Kong handover charts. This can blow your mind. Check this out. That's not what I want. Okay. So here's where the rubber hits the road. In the inner ring, we have China. And China, very interesting country. It's a Libra country. And it has an Aquarian moon and Aquarian rising, which means that they're going to be into things like AI, which I'm going to get into. They're going to be into things like computers, AI, but there's a very dispassionate nature here with China. Very dispassionate, which is one of the hallmarks of Aquarius. Detached and dispassionate. Oh, and looky what we have here. Here's Uranus, right in China's 1st house. This is the handover chart. They're going to have to deal with this. They're going to have to deal with it now, with Saturn coming through here in about a year. They're going to have to deal with it. A little over a year. But what really sort of grabbed my attention is this right here. Saturn-Mars conjunction, almost exact. HK, the handover, has Mars in Libra at 5. China's Sun is at 7. They're going to be in conflict. They're going to be in conflict. And China's Sun shows up right in that 7th house. I can't see how this is not going to erupt into some kind of boots on the ground situation. Now, I've heard that the People's Army has already been inserted into the Chinese police, or the HK police. That's going to be fascinating to see what happens with the HK police. Because at some point they could turn and they could not do anything against the people, at which point I think the Chinese, I think have already put their own people inside of the HK police force, would have to do something more drastic. I'm not sure how this does not result in some heavy duty hardcore conflict. It's right there. It's right there. And China has Uranus in the sign of Cancer. And look where the sun is. It's conjunct the Chinese Uranus, right? Which is at 4 Cancer. The sun is at 8 Cancer. They're going to be in conflict. This is, you can see how revolution can work at an astrological level. And what we saw with the HK chart is what's happening at the top of the chart with Saturn and Pluto squaring off against Aries, Saturn and Aries, which is right here. And look, this is China's true node. And it's right in their first house. And it's conjunct transiting Saturn. It's very interesting. I mean, their fingerprints are all over this thing. The cosmic fingerprints are all over this. And China even has Mars, Pluto in Leo, right? And they have a relationship with HK because HK has that Venus in Leo right there on the descendant. But this is the youth. This is the youth of HK. And what we have going on, right, is we have the opposition to China's moon on the ascendant, and of course, Neptune and Uranus. Now, with Neptune here, there's got to be a tenuous hold. You can't hold on to something with Neptune on the ascendant. Ultimately, it's just too fluid. It's too fluid. And maybe they've tried to hands off this thing. Maybe the US has gotten involved and begun to create some kind of major distractions here. But this is going to go off. I can tell you right now, this situation is going to go off. And even with Jupiter here in the first house, China's expanding its territory, right? With Jupiter in the first house. But they're not, I mean, I'm not sure they sat down and said, oh, look, we got all these planets in the 11th house. Maybe we shouldn't do it at midnight. I don't think they went that far. But they probably should have. But this is the ghost of the machine, the Deus Ex Machina, is the 11th house here. And it's going to go off. It's going to go off right in China's wheelhouse in the first house. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Well, there's a lot more going on to China than meets the eye. And that's going to bring us back to this country, the United States, and the hidden narrative of what's really taking place in China as it relates to Google, as it relates to AI. And I believe Google is liable for treason here. I think they've got everything in their power to shut Google down if they wanted to, but they won't, because Google's, of course, being run by the NSA and DARPA. So let me check in with you guys and see what your thoughts on all of this is before I jump into the next level, next layer of all this. Let's see, best days of HK are over, and practically they will never let HK break away. Here's what I think. I think it's an ongoing situation. I don't think it's something they're going to be able to handle. I mean, they're going to have to wipe out. I think they're going to have to wipe out a bunch of folks. They're going to have to wipe out a generation. They're going to have to wipe out those Pluto and Sag kids. I mean, look at that 11th house. That 11th house is radical. It's revolutionary. And in order to suppress it, they may have to wait until it gets to Saturn in Aquarius, in which case that suppression may occur. But it's baked into that chart. They're gonna have to deal with these Pluto and Sag kids. And I agree on some level that China will never let HK get away, but it's not going to be easy for them. And it could be a stain on them in terms of human rights. Okay. My 2 cents. China's chart has a hint of Baphomet about its wings. Interesting. Very interesting. My case, pet peeve, astrology explain entire country political unit. The horoscope or constitution. Look, I'm looking at the handover. I'm looking at the handover of China. If you got here late, here, let me read your comment. I arrived 52 minutes late. Well, you arrived 52 minutes. Maybe if you go back and listen to what I already had to say, it might make sense to you about what I was saying. I was talking about Generation Z, Pluto and Sag. It's not, you're Stephen, I love you, but you're making judgments that are based on being 52 minutes late. Okay. Let's see, the Chinese won't have a problem taking out a generation. They're heartless. Lynn, I agree with you. How's that going to look in the world of public opinion? Right? Which theoretically does matter when people want to use so-called public opinion to push an agenda. I'm not saying it matters all the time. I think they're selective about it, right? What else do we have here? China have announced the GSM and the records with the cyclical nature of the climate and globe is cooling across the pond. You're in for hard times. Your breadbasket is gone. Yeah, they wiped it out with all the rains, right? They wiped it out with all the rains. It's going to be tough. But guess what? We're Americans. At least some of us still are, theoretically. Indeed. Norman O'Fall, I arrived 50 minutes late. Well, you don't look. You arrived 52 minutes late. That's fine, right? You know, and you're welcome to have an opinion. And if you disagree with me or what I'm saying, that's fine. I don't care. You know, this is what happens. I disagree with people, but I think you're a little quick on the draw, Stephen. A little quick. All right, what else do we have here? I'm a Libra Sun Aqua Rising. I keep them hidden is all. Wouldn't be the first time, but then there wasn't live leak during the Cultural Revolution. Now, here, let's go a little bit deeper. I want to bring up this guy who has come forward. It's very interesting. Let me see. So let me just give you just a quick kind of look into what Google's been doing in China. Google Developer Days, opening the Google AI Center in China. So this was Eric Schmidt and Alphabet's little brainchild, right? And this is from Fei Li, Chief Scientist, AI, ML, Google Cloud. Since becoming a professor 12 years ago and joining Google a year ago, I had the good fortune to work with many talented Chinese engineers, researchers, and technologists. Blah, 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 blah. Chinese authors contributed 43% of all content in the top 100 AI journals in 2015. And when the Association for the Advancement of AI discovered that their annual meeting overlapped with the Chinese New Year this year, they rescheduled. Oh, religious tolerance. I believe AI and its benefits have no borders. Whether a breakthrough occurs in Silicon Valley, Beijing, or anywhere else, it has the potential to make everyone's life better for the entire world. How do we know it's going to make everyone's life better? How do we know? It's all based on some fanciful H.G. Wells Fabian Society presupposition that more technology is good technology is better technology, which is, I think, horseshit. Some technology can be good. I'm not opposed to good technology. This technology allows me to stream out of my studio home office. It's great, right? But not you know, the same technology is tracking the shit out of me at the same time, right? It's one of those two-edged swords. Anyway, this is what Google's been doing. Lady in Red. Anyway, this is what Google's been doing. However, not all that Google's been doing in China has been good. This is from our good pal, not really, Alex Jones. Yes, Alex Jones still provides content. And this is a story here about Zach Voorhees, who's a whistleblower, is raising the alarm on Google's AI project in China. And he's calling this century's Manhattan Project for Artificial Intelligence. Voorhees slammed Google as a national security threat for hosting its massive AI project in China, while simultaneously canceling contracts with America's military. So Google is basically being very selective And this guy came forward, and he came forward with a bunch of information. He's a whistleblower. He got his laptop out. This is what he says. The equivalent to the Manhattan Project that Google is working on is called Deep Minds, said Voorhees. Google has been trying to deceive the public by creating a fake AI project called Dragonfly. They were telling the public that Dragonfly was their censorship weapon, but no information existed on it because it was a fake project. You know it's a fake project because right after I disclosed ML fairness, right, ML fairness being machine learning fairness, that thing that we talked about, which takes essentially algorithms and redistributes the idea of fairness. So if you look up Dr. Mercola on Google, there's all this information that says Mercola is great, Mercola is good, Mercola has fantastic alternative pieces on health, right? In order to be fair, Google will reassign the algorithm so that pieces that are contrary to Mercola begin to show up. They use the same thing with YouTube. It's the same company. So what they're doing is they're redistributing content based on their idea of what fairness is, not really what fairness supposedly is. That's ML fairness. ML fairness, which is the real AI censorship project. Google decided the ruse is over and they'll officially terminate the Dragonfly project, and that happened in July. It's not just about corporate profits. Google is now exposing itself as a national security threat, said Voorhees. Google is hosting its AI Manhattan project in a foreign country. This is nothing new. This is nothing new at all, right? There's been espionage. How do you think China got the nuclear bomb or the atomic bomb, or Russia got them? It's all espionage. It's all taking information out, patents out, selling it to the highest bidder, and sometimes not even the highest bidder, selling to the people you want to receive the information. Meanwhile, Google is using deception to cancel its contracts within the United States military. Voorhees went on to explain that the person who knows the most about this topic is American entrepreneur Peter Thiel, who recently accused Google of treason, demanded an investigation into the company's activities with China. This is all happening right now. While this is all going on, we have civil unrest in HK. So China theoretically is being now, and then there's the tariff stuff happening with Trump, whether you think it's the right thing to do or the wrong. American farmers are taking it in the shorts right now in a time where their crops have been really decimated by the flooding, probably through geoengineering. Let's just throw that up on the wall. Normally they're getting their crops purchased from China. China's not doing that. You know, there's the big FU to America's farmers. So America's farmers are taking a hard hit right now. You know, and if Trump was smart, he would be throwing money at them in a big way, right? But that's another part of what's taking place. So there's a war going on three fronts. There's the tariff war. There's what's taking place in HK, which is being, I believe, astroturfed by the U.S. And now there is potentially even an espionage war that's being uncovered. So things are going to get very interesting with China if they aren't already. So let's continue to read this. Voorhees went on to explain, okay, Peter Thiel, Voorhees wants patriots worldwide to sound the alarm on Google's practices and spread the data he leaked. Whatever you think Google is doing, I promise you, it's way worse, said Voorhees. Voorhees also took the time to address Google executives engaged in these practices. Your days of deception are limited, said Voorhees. We're all paying attention to the things you're saying. Whatever you say is going to be audited at some point in the future. You'll be held to account for lying to the American public. Well, I hope so. I hope so. Most of these politicians are in Google's pockets. Google pays them. Google will contribute to campaigns of politicians on both the left and the right. And how many times have we run Google's people up to Capitol Hill and sat there and they've gotten grilled. How many times does that happen? A lot. What's come out of it? That doesn't mean that something can't come out of it, but people need to be awake and they need to be aware of what's going on. Google's involved in high-level treason. Meanwhile, they're completely altering the algorithms of any meaningful search. Forget the days of meaningful search. And apparently, from what I understand and have been told, they're starting to scrub the internet. They're starting to remove sites from the internet that have really deep pockets of information. They're going to go away, which is why when you find something, you should probably grab it, screenshot it, archive it if you can. Because at some point, that stuff's going to go away. Who do you think's behind this? Who do you think has the power to do this? It's Google, right? So something heavy, something very heavy happened to Mr. Voorhees. Let's see if I can find this. Let's see what we got here. Check this out. You guys got to see this. You think this guy is a plant? You think he's lying? You think he's a disinfo agent? Google sent police to SWAT a whistleblower when he leaked their documents proving interference with U.S. elections. Here he is, Zachary Voorhees. Zachary Voorhees, a senior engineer at Google, released hundreds of documents to Project Veritas, including a blacklist of conservative news sites. When Google discovered he leaked the files, they contacted police who swatted him, which is a harassment tactic of causing an emergency service to send a team, police, and medical personnel to someone's home. The company requested a mental health check. So Google is not who they say they are, and does exactly what it swears it does not do. He broke from Google because he fears the company will destroy the entire free election system. So he released hundreds of documents on Project Veritas. He says he added a dead man switch to the files in case he was assassinated. One of the files leaked by Voorhees is a new blacklist site for Google Now. He claims there's a list of web pages that Google restricts, including conservatively websites such as the National Enquirer, Media Matters, and InfoWars. Another file appears to show a ranking classifier to define channel quality. Images show Voorhees walking towards officers after Google called the police. Very interesting stuff here. I have not watched this video, by the way. This is the Project Veritas video. Voorhees says the company's actions are hypocritical at the least, and it's perjury at the worst. After CEO Sundar Pichai testified to Congress to say they do not promote left-leaning Democratic news over that of more conservative outlets or media outlets, does not rate. The insider said he spoke out amid fears the entire election system was going to be compromised forever by this company that told the American public it was not going to do any evil. So here's the full article. It's right here. And it looks like it's on the Daily Mail, which is pretty interesting in terms of getting stuff, right? And that's going to be, so there he is. Here's the news blacklist site for Google Now. Throw this into the chat room so you guys have this. You can, I'll put this link also into the show page as well here. Let me throw this in. There we go. Steve and Chris say, sorry, I'm an hour late, but this is classic socialist tactics, right, of the Soviet Union. Absolutely. Absolutely. So here we go. This is where it originally comes from. There's the police. He's right there. Hands up, Zach Voorhees. See that? Sundar Pichai. Ted Cruz. That was actually pretty good on Cap Hill when he was doing the interrogation. Google now owns DuckDuckGo. They bought DuckDuckGo. Can't even use DuckDuckGo anymore. Cannot use it. Look at that. Hands up. You're under arrest. I mean, is this staged? Maybe. But I would tend to think that this guy is probably not wanted around the Google campus. That's my 2 cents. So there's a lot going on now with China, and we got into some of the astrological aspects with the handover, China's relationship to the handover, certain transits, and especially as it relates to Gen Z, because as I showed in those photos, Gen Z seems to be at the tip of the spear with these protests. The Pluto and Sag kids. Okay. Let me show you a few more images of China that I found that are pretty compelling and gives you an idea as to the scope as to what's going on here. Boy, oh boy. It's really pretty intense. So here's a young gal. And again, I want you to pay attention and look at the age of what we're talking about here. So it looks like she got a blow to the nose. Look at these people are young. This is Gen Z. These are the Pluto and Sag kids right here. Right? Looks like he's a cop. He's a young cop. It's like is he military? What's he doing with his hat backwards? Let me show you another photo. Here we go. Looks like they're being interrogated, maybe, perhaps. They got their hands up against the railing and the banister. Again, they're wearing black, very Saturnian. They've got these masks on because of tear gas. This is serious shit. And again, is it astroturfed? More than likely. Are the US and the CIA involved here? Probably. But it's gaining traction. It's gaining traction and is not abating. Let me show you another picture here, which is, again, kind of mind-blowing. You gotta see this one. Oh, this is an interesting one. This is classic, man. This is such a classic photo. This is iconic right here. Check this out. There you go. There is your photo op meme. This is the modern version of the guy dancing with the tank. Right there. I love this, man. If I had a band, this would be my album cover. Right here. This would be my freaking album cover. Look at that. So it looks like they've got a bunch of people down here that they've kind of rounded up. And then here we go with the sort of the human barriers, the walking human shields that they have here, right? I love this picture. I don't care whether it was staged or not. I don't care. This is a mind-blowing picture. And that his head is at the bottom of the exclamation mark, right? I love it. Great stuff. So things are happening in Hong Kong. And of course, the meat of this happens to be the comparison of the charts that I did with the handover of China, the chart of China, transits, and of course, I think the big The big factor here is Gen Z. That's my 2 cents. Okay. Let's see what you guys have to say here in the chat room. It's so Pluto and Sag. I know, right? It is so Pluto and Sag. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Google's company, don't be evil. Google's the arm of the CIA. It's the arm of the NSA, actually. The NSA and DARPA. Of course, the CIA loved to use Google, but it was the NSA and DARPA that were the fingerprints. Google will never go down. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And the reason I don't know is twofold. Number one, at some point, the circus is going to pull up the stakes and leave town. Okay, that's what I think. They've been gathering data and information on us for decades now, really since the inception of the internet. Everybody's got a cell phone, and that cell phone can grab, broadcast, and transmit data wherever we are. You don't have to have Google Maps on your cell phone either. It basically will transmit, broadcast your position in time and space, who you're talking with. It'll grab what your chats are. It records your purchases, right? In many regards, the cell phone has displaced any centralized gathering system, and it's ubiquitous. Everybody's got one. So I think that Google is very, very powerful, very powerful. But if they decide that they want to close up shop, and part of Google was a limited hang, they will. They could split it. They could have it, they could go the monopoly route. They could split it, and they could say, oh, we're reformed. We're a better Google, right? But they've got a multitude of ways to gather information on us now. I don't think any entity is beyond being liquidated or eliminated if said entity has fulfilled its usefulness. And once said entity has fulfilled its usefulness, I don't think that they're going to be kept around. I think this is what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein had fulfilled his usefulness. And there's probably more Jeffrey Epsteins that we don't even know about. And so it was time for Jeffrey Epstein to be the spy who came in from the cold, or be abducted and taken out of circulation. He had fulfilled his usefulness. And I think these entities at some point in time fulfill their usefulness, and then they're shut down. And that's just the way it is. So I think Google could be shut down, or something could happen. Would it ultimately happen? I think the odds are against it, but I don't think it's out of the question. It's not out of the question. If they stop feeding politicians money and helping them get reelected, that process will be facilitated rather quickly. I just tend to think of things as usefulness, and it feels to me like there's something that's going on now where the circus is leaving town. That's what it feels like. I mean, the Epstein thing is so weird and so bizarre, and is leaving all kinds of clues and all kinds of strange shit. Like there's a new painting now that's emerged with George Bush with paper airplanes and a broken kind of Jenga kind of thing resembling the Twin Towers. Same picture, same person that painted Bill in Monica Lewinsky's blue dress. Like there's so much stuff that's bubbling up from the surface now that it almost feels like the simulation is coming to an end on some level. And in which case, these entities, if they decide that, okay, well, we want Google to be primarily Chinese, we'll shut down the American version. They could do it. I don't think it's out of the question, because it feels like things are starting to come to some kind of a screeching halt on some level, right? I mean, we've gotten to this place with the Epstein thing that the level of high strange is off the charts, both from, the content and what's surfacing to the actual theoretical demise of Epstein. to the connections. I mean, the thing is, we've never been in this place before. Never. And I'm not sure it's leading to some greater articulation of truth. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I am inferring is that this version of whatever part of the simulation we've been living in, I think is coming to a close. In which case, everything is on the table. Everything. That's my 2 cents. What do you guys think? The food of psychic vamps. The masks are falling. Everyone's, yep. I would agree. Loosh is a food for non-physical evil. Really, it's like a Tarantino movie. Nothing is out of the question. I have Pluto in ascendant in square today, and Pluto opposed Mercury. Might mean something astrology is way beyond my pay grade. The stakes are getting higher. I mean, you have to understand that the people who have been involved in the construct of the 20th century, they don't care. They don't care what model they invest in. They don't care whether it's capitalism or socialism or new form of Chi-Com, capital socialism. They don't care. They have no investment whatsoever. So if they want to tear something down, they'll tear it down. Doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight, but they'll do it. Really interesting development. It may seem minor, but the New York Nets, which are a basketball team, were just purchased by a guy by the name of Michael Tsai, Tsai. I believe his name is Michael. This is the guy that started Alibaba. He just purchased the New York Nets, which are a basketball team, and the Barclays Center, which the Barclays Center, by the way, is a very kind of occultic esoteric structure, which I covered a long time ago in one of my newsletters. It's a very interesting structure. If you ever want to look at the Barclays Center, it's very interesting. Anyway, so a Chinese capitalist bought the New Jersey Nets from a Russian capitalist. Okay. So the Nets have been, I guess, essentially dubbed the NBA's international franchise. Right? They're going to be owned by somebody from a foreign country. So now we have the founder of Alibaba owning an American franchise, the American National Basketball Association. It gives you some insight as to what's taking place. It's going to be interesting. Keep your high beams on. And if you haven't signed up for coming to Texas, the Hill Country, in October for the Harvest Moon Hill Country get together, I highly recommend it. We're going to have a great time. So, a good friend of mine is coming up on Saturday, and he's going to be doing, so we're going to have so much fun. He's going to be doing a CBD social. Okay. So he is a creator of some really high quality CBD products, really high quality. And we're going to be doing a CBD social. He's figured out how to mix the stuff, water soluble CBD with Topo Chico and all kinds of stuff. And that's going to be happening on Saturday, CBD social. Where else are you going to go to have a CBD social? And by the way, the CBD social is going to be the gateway to getting us to Fredericksburg on Saturday night, where Stephen Kent will be performing live on that Saturday night at the Fredericksburg Historical Society, which is an old church with beautiful stained glass windows, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a fun night. And so we're going to have the CBD social. We're going to get in the vans. We're going to go up to Fredericksburg. And then we're going to go to this place called Hondo's. And of course, you pay for your experience. You just go up to Hondo's, order what you want. Hondo's is typically, classically, hill country. And it's connected to the Lukenbach family, Lukenbach, Texas. You're not going to get more hill country, Willie Nelson, outlaw, Tex-Mex, Cajun cuisine than Hondo's. So we're going to go there. You have a little bit of time to explore Fredericksburg. And after that, walk over to the Historical Society, and we're going to have our concert on Saturday night. Stephen Kent performing exclusively. I'm not going to sell any tickets to any locals, and I could. This is your event, okay? Your event. Stephen Kent is a world-class musician, and this will be a concert you'll be talking about for the rest of your life, I guarantee you. Because I've known Stephen for years, and I've worked so many of his shows. I've done a ton of stuff with Stephen, and I know I've traveled all over the country with Stephen. We've done great stuff. Great stuff. Events in New York. Stephen's open for the Dalai Lama. I was there for that. He opened for the freaking Dalai Lama, okay? And I know the Dalai Lama's got baggage, but just think of the cachet around that. Well, the Dalai Lama didn't want him. It was somebody at Stanford University who wanted to book him. So that's going to be your private concert on Saturday night. And that's after the CBD social and having a wonderful Tex-Mex dinner at Hondo's. And maybe they might even have a little bit of live music playing on the outdoor stage. Okay. And that's just Saturday night alone. We got all kinds of stuff planned for you guys. So if you haven't signed up, go to my website, robertphoenix.com. On the sidebar, it's all there. It's all there. Cost, everything. It's pretty affordable. I'm going to be there. Glenn Streeter and his magical medical machines are going to be there. Emily Moyer is going to be there. The Crimmies are going to be there. I'll be doing some astrological stuff. We'll have some breakouts, some seminars. We're going to be doing the Friday FARcast live, be part of a live audience. We're going to be hitting Enchanted Rock. Chris is going to bust out some dowsing. We're going to have lunch out at Enchanted Rock. I'm telling you, it's going to be a really cool event. And I got to cap the event at around 50 to 55 people max. And I'm 2/3 of the way there. So this is the type of event I want to do this on a yearly basis. I want us to come together once a year so we can all meet each other, greet each other, hang out, and go back into our lives feeling empowered and connected. That's the plan. At least for now. It starts this year. Okay. All right. Let me check in with you guys, see what's going on. Robert was referring to inviting Clean Water Fred group to the concert. No. I'll see what I can do to make the Great Textile Country retreat, but it might take some great metaphysical stealthy tricks to kick in this year. Let's see, what else do we have? We're really looking forward to mostly being in the presence of you folk, maybe next year in Nashville. It could be. I'd definitely be open to that. I've seen the maps in California most of my life. I could live within Tornado Alley, Texas. Oh my God. Let's see, just from the outside, seeing Jay-Z and all the people perform here. Yeah. Let's see, what else do we have? Really cute CBD social. Yeah, my buddy Chris. My buddy Chris is going to run that. Chris is brilliant. He's got some of the best CBD I've ever ingested. Chris says, how did the Great American Eclipse affect the end of this current simulation? Well, we're not okay. So there are two parts of the Great American Eclipse. The next part of it is going to be the eclipse in 2024, which runs right through the country. And it's going to be a cross, which is America at a crossroads. The cross at the end of time, 2024. That's the next part of the story. And maybe next week, Marina Darkstar will be with me next week in this time slot. And maybe we'll get into that. So she's going to be here, and we've got specific stuff we're going to talk about. So if you guys like Marina and like her work, she'll be here with me, and we'll be entangled with this stuff. Okay. All right. Let's see what we have here. I was also saying my culture tour thing available for sale at local stands. Carry inventory. Let's see. Anybody else? Okay. Why don't we get on out of here? Thank you all for joining me on today's show. I can post this over on robertphoenix.com since it does have some astrology associated with it. So you know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. I'll be back on Sunday night with the 11th house live, Sunday night Astro Live. Of course, we'll have some good topics to dive into, no doubt. Just had the full moon. I was really busy yesterday on that full moon. And man, my crown chakra being aggravated right now. It's a little bit better. Really busy yesterday. And I got that full moon is in my third house. I'm running around town all day yesterday. Crazy. It's good though. It's good. Very good. All right. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart stay with what's possible. Big love, big hugs to all of you. Stay strong, stay courageous. Keep your high beams on and keep taking care of yourself. Do everything in your power every single day to get stronger, get better. Look at your diet, look at your exercise, tap into, the spirit of God within you, meditation, prayer, anything that's going to build you up. We need it right now. It's important. It's very, very important. We need sound minds, sound bodies, sound hearts to make us through this patch of time. Okay? All right. Take good care. I'll see everybody on Sunday night.